Department of Land Economy.
I'm Kenneth Apia Donko, Chairman, Land Economy.
Anthony Owusu-Ansah, Land Economy.
Michael Ayete Nano, Planning.
Akosia Biki Amaka Ochi, Planning.
Mark Osu Yabua, Land Economy.
I'm Kafui Oklu, Department of Planning.
Rudith Kane, Center for Settlement Studies and co-coordinator of Nelga.
Sarah Boateng, Center for Settlement Studies.
Eric Kwame Simpe, Center for Settlement Studies.
Patrick Opoku, the advisor for the Nelga project. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. We continue.
Bridges and Pofeje, PhD candidate, Land Economy.
Ekwate Chuasan, Nelga.
Jennifer Techinimo, College of Arts and Built Environment.
Siopoku Jemfi, Quality Assurance and Planning Office. Marcia Opoku Jemfi, Quality Assurance and Planning Office.
And Special Assistant to our keynote speaker. Okay, so the rest are covering the program. They don't want to mention their names, but we acknowledge them. Dr. Jemfi Yabua would also introduce himself. Good morning. You mentioned my name already, so I guess. Land Economy Department, thank you. He's also Frank. All right, so thank you very much. We would want to take the opportunity to also be interacting with each other during the course of the program. We would skip the welcome address again because we are still waiting for the provost, but then we would move to the overview of the SLAC program and the purpose of this particular workshop. So I invite Dr. Patrick Opoku of Nelga to come in and handle that for us. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Tuji. I'm going to give a brief overview of our program and the purpose for our gathering today. So the program started in 2014 and is funded by the German government, and is supposed to end in 2026. But the grant agreement between the German government and KNUST will end in 2024. This is very important also because senior members have been coming to us for support to attend conferences and training events, and I think that beyond 2024 we have to look at a sustainability strategy on how to continue with the project. So already we have commissioned a consultant who is looking at that, and then for the Nelga North we have also developed something which we want to implement to ensure that after the grant agreement between the German government and KNUST, our program will continue. But our office in Addis will operate till 2026. The total amount of money for the program is 47.7 million euro, and the implementing partners for the SELGA program are the African Union, the African Land Policy Center, ALPC, NEPAD, the World Bank, and then we have the Nord universities, including Namibia University, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. We have the Technical Nord in Western Cape, that is PLAS. And then we work also in collaboration with the German Academic Exchange Service. So the program has 4 main components. The first one is to strengthen advisory capacity of AU institutions. We have training and education, research and data management, and the establishment of Nelga. And I think that Nelga is one of the components that is very popular. So if you look at the network, it comprises over 70 partner institutions spread across Africa, and KNUST happens to be the node or the center for the Anglophone West Africa. Sorry, I'm not operating. So the Nelga has 3 main components. The first one is training and education. We have research and policy, data availability and accessibility. So if you look at training and education, our capacity development workshop today falls under short-term capacity development measures for professionals and experts from the public and private sector, civil society, as well as academic and students. For our achievements, training and capacity development, so far Nelga partners have offered over 51 short-term training, providing more than 2,470 specialists and managers with knowledge to better perform their functions, of which 34 are females. And then in 2017, we developed also the guidelines for curriculum development. So far, 89 full scholarships have been given to people in Africa in cooperation with DAD, of which 25 of these scholarships were given to KNUST students. In terms of research, over 85 regional and national demand-driven land research projects were pursued by Nelga researchers. And then we have also funded LGAF assessment in several countries, including Ethiopia, Zambia, Tanzania, and we are also looking at Ghana in the coming months. The African Journal on Land Policy and Geospatial Sciences has also been established to help our scientists publish their papers. And so far, 34 policy dialogues have also been funded through our project. In terms of data, 6,350 land-related data sets from African countries are made available by Nelga. For the Anglophone West African node where we are, we have launched the Nelga project, and so far we are working with 4 universities. So Federal University of Technology in Mina State, University of Liberia, University of Makini. And the pictures there shows the one on top, the launch of the Nelga project at KNUST. In terms of training and capacity building, as I mentioned earlier on, we have provided 25 scholarships for students at KNUST for the program MSc and PhD Development Planning, MSc Land Governance, PhD, MSc Geomatic Engineering. And then we have also supported training of traditional authorities on the New Land Act, training of land professionals on blockchain technology, and then we have the research development workshop. We also supported our technical node plus to organize the short course on political economy of land governance in Accra. Currently, we are supporting University of the Gambia to develop a bachelor degree program in land governance. Already, we have supported University of Makini in Sierra Leone, Fitumina in Nigeria, University of Liberia to develop similar programs. For Gambia, we are working in collaboration with the World Bank on this project. In terms of research, KNUST has collaborated with our partners in bringing out this book on the left responsible and smart land management. And then we are also going to publish a book on our flood research very soon. So on the right, we have this book, which is the University Printing Press, which is going to be out very soon. Currently, we also supported the FIG Working Week in Accra by being one of the sponsors. We held a session, and then we also supported some of our senior members to participate in the FIG. So, for today's workshop, the main purpose is for us to look at AI and our staff capacity building program, to look at the benefits, the challenges and ethical issues associated with it. For more information about our program, you can visit www.nelga.org. And then if you have any questions to our offices are open, you can visit us for that. So thank you very much for giving me your attention.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Opoku. We would be moving to the welcome address. I would just want to add that the welcome address is supposed to be given by someone we all know, but I want to add that he's wearing two shoes at the moment. The Nelga program is hosted by the Department of Land Economy. The one to give us the address is actually a key person in that department, but beyond that, he's also the provost of the whole college. Aside that, his other shoe is that he is also at the helm of affairs when it comes to Nelga. We want to just leave the introduction at this point because it's a very tall one, and invite Prof. J.T. Bugri to come and then give a welcome address. Thank you. I thought you would add a little more to it. I was brief, but the clapping should not be brief. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm even going to be more brief. Welcome to Capacity Building Workshop. And I think that as I was coming, what was going through my mind was that what is there to say as a welcome address other than you are welcome? But then I realized that we're in for serious business today. As far as land governance is concerned, it is not every day that you happen to get yourself professing a discipline and being a tutee of one of your former students. So I am very delighted that in a very short while, or perhaps tomorrow, I would be hearing from one of my very own former students, Tony Theodore, who is now also a guru in this area. But even beyond that, I haven't really heard Prof. Ponyo as far as AI is concerned. I've been invited to your programs a couple of times. I always happen to be out of town. Forgive me for that. But I like wearing your t-shirt weekends. So it is a very, very important occasion that we have ourselves into. And if you ask me, maybe Reverend would remind me whether I'm correct or wrong. The gun test chain was introduced to the civilian profession in the year 1620 by a clergyman like you, as well as a mathematician with the name Edmund Gunter. And for me, that really was the in thing during that period of the 17th century as far as accuracy in taking details of land for legal purposes was concerned. The world has moved, and it continues moving very, very fast. I doubt whether the geometric engineering department still uses the gun test chain. It is obsolete. When I was doing photogrammetry, the kind of things that were pushed through, I don't see that happening today. Only because of one thing, that the only constant thing in the world is change. And as long as change is taking place and you are left static, you will not make progress. Land governance as a discipline has evolved over the years to the extent that when I look at the potential of AI, and I know next to nothing about it, but just the idea that with this kind of revolution in technology, a lot could happen to land governance, then it underscores the rationale for our being here this morning to actually get ourselves updated in the discipline of AI and how it could be deployed in the context of land governance. I want all of us to be very much attentive to whatever the 2 days of discussions will bring us. And I would only plead that whereas we are defining the relevance of AI to land governance, we also do appreciate the fact that as a tool or technology, it actually goes beyond just what we are considering, and in which context Prof. and Tony, as well as Pamela, who probably is online, would have to address one key parameter. It is not very clear what the true potential of AI is in terms of the positive and the negative. And consequentially, we would have to be very, very much looking at this particular technological evolution very, very cautiously. And for me, the precautionary principle is always my watchword. Let us start developing whatever guardrails that we would put in place so that when this technology is fully deployed, we will be able to minimize the downsides of this technology. And on that note, I welcome all of you to this particular capacity building workshop. Patrick has already told us a lot about what SLGA is doing and what Nelga is also trying to fit into that equation. And had perhaps Prof. King done this address, I would have just been laid back and listening. So to all of you, welcome and thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Provost. I think he deserves another. Right. So thank you. We'll move on to our first technical presentation. And it is good that it is following right after the welcome address. Some interesting things have been raised by the Provost. We have, as the presenter this morning, someone who has been at the helm of affairs when it comes to AI at the KNUST. And not only there, but nationally and internationally. I am happy to introduce this particular person because he's also been dealing with quality issues at KNUST. So if you are able to see where KNUST stands now in the global system, he is the key person behind this. He is the Dean for the Quality Assurance and Planning Office of KNUST. And I am pleased to introduce to you Professor J.J. Punyo. Shall we welcome him with?
Thank you. Good morning. Yeah. My provost, good morning. Yes. I'm glad that today we all can gather around the table and talk about AI. So this morning I want to look at a general overview. I mean, AI is so broad. If we want to talk about it, we can spend the whole year and we won't finish. So just to do an overview as far as AI is concerned and look at its application in relation to research, teaching, and then learning, and probably touch briefly on, because I'm dealing with gurus in land governance, from an engineering perspective, what I think we can do in that regard. Next slide. So, I think there is an outline. Master, how contempt? Stay with me, okay? So I'll look at what AI is, and then we'll look at the pipeline as far as AI is concerned. Then we'll go ahead and look at what the key technologies are. A lot has been said about generative AI. ChatGPT actually falls within the domain of generative AI. So we'll talk about that. Then we'll look at digital transformation through AI. A lot has been said with reference to the potential that AI wills. So we will look at key sectors of the economy that it can affect and how we can achieve that. Then we will look at the impact of AI on the economy. Then we will narrow down to the key reasons for which we are here. How do we apply AI in research? How can we apply AI in our teaching? What are some of the examples that exist? Then we'll look at learning. Teaching and learning are different things altogether. You administer the teaching and then there is a learning that must go on. How does AI support learning as well? The provost laid it out clearly when he said that there are ethical issues as far as AI is concerned. We will interrogate some of those ethical issues and then look at how we can establish guardrails, rightly said, so that we can harness the positives and then guard against the negative. Then I'll make a case, because we are looking at it within the context of teaching and learning. There are a certain category of persons we call differently able. How do we ensure that within the context of administering our education within the context of AI, we don't leave them out? And then we'll go ahead and look at some applications of AI in land governance. I'll just scratch the surface because I know there is a detailed presentation regarding that. And then we'll conclude. Next slide. Okay. So basically, when a lot has been said about artificial intelligence. So what exactly is artificial intelligence? I've said it in several quarters that it's intelligence that is artificial. And that settles it. But basically, when we talk of artificial intelligence, this basically looks at simulating human intelligence in machines. So trying to let machines learn from the things that are available. So by so doing, gaining some measure of intelligence. In the human context, your level of intelligence is dependent on how much information you have consumed. And so, the more you read, the more intelligent you become. In the context of machines, there are data sets. We feed them with data sets, and then they learn based on the data that they have gathered, and by so doing become intelligent. The more they read, the more intelligent they become. And as a result of that, there are certain functions, intelligent functions, that human beings or other intelligent agents are capable of that machines are also able to do. And that basically falls within the realm of artificial intelligence. AI systems are programmed to learn and improve from data. And I've already said that, for instance, if the machine knows something, but the data suggests that there has been a change, by exposing the machine to that data, it learns from that, and then if it made a mistake, it wouldn't make that same mistake again. And so it improves on its intelligence on the basis of the more data that is fed to it. There is the whole realm of machine learning. Then there is natural language processing, where machines also learn to understand and to comprehend various languages. Then there is computer vision. These are some of the subfields as far as AI is concerned. Next slide. All right, so when we look at the whole context of artificial intelligence, we can put them in 4 blocks. The first one borders on what we want to achieve. So for instance, let's say in the context of land governance, I want to have an understanding of what to do with a piece of land. So that basically is my target. So my envisioning is, that is the task, that is the problem that I want to solve. So that is the envisioning stage, having an understanding of what I want to achieve with AI. Then the second one has to do with, remember that artificial intelligence borders on letting the machines learn from data that is available. And so primarily what it means is that before I develop my model, it is important that I have an understanding of what data is needed to be able to train my model. And so the second stage has to do with gathering the requisite data to be able to train the model. The third one has to do with developing a model. And so the model mimics the behavior of the human being or the agent. And so primarily what it means is that when I have developed the model, then I use the data that is available to train the model. And then I now have to deploy my model and find out whether the model is behaving the way I want it to behave. And so the earlier task was making a determination what to do with a piece of land. If there are similar examples of how pieces of land has been used for, that becomes the data set based on which I train my model. And then in the deployment stage, the model has to now make a decision as to what to do with a piece of land. And then we will decide whether the model is behaving properly or not by looking at the performance measure as to whether it is accurately making the determination or not. And so these are the 4 key blocks. Irrespective of which AI solution you are looking at, you can always place them within the context of these 4 blocks. The envisioning stage, the data that is available, the modeling stage, and then the deployment stage. And as already been said, at every stage, there are constraints that we have to look at within the context of ethical applications as far as AI is concerned. Next slide. So the broader context of machines exhibiting intelligence is artificial intelligence. But what the driver as far as artificial intelligence is concerned is machine learning. So you have machines that are learning, and as a result of that, you are seeing artificial intelligence. What you see on the outside is AI. What drives AI is machine learning. When we talk of machine learning, it is a broader perspective. At times making a decision as to, for instance, whether something is blue or white. But then beyond that, if you go deeper into making it more intelligent by triggering neural networks and the rest, then we go into a certain domain we call deep learning, where you now begin to do a lot of wild stuff as far as artificial intelligence is concerned. All that falls within the domain of data science. So these are the broad categories as far as artificial intelligence is concerned. I've said that we've heard people talk about AI. AI is the broader perspective, but what enables is machine learning. At a higher level of machine learning is deep learning, and all that falls within the context of data science. Next slide. Okay, so as I've already indicated, the key technologies, we have machine learning. These are algorithms that allow computers to learn from data. Example, spam filters. Previously, you go to your mail and then you have been spammed. There are several mails that you don't know where they are coming from. But as a result of artificial intelligence, you actually can develop models that can look at a mail that you are receiving and make a determination whether it is a spam or not, so that it can put them in the spam folder, mindful of the fact that it is not relevant to you. All that falls within the context of machine learning. Then there is also deep learning. This is a subset of machine learning which uses neural networks. Example is image and speech recognition. How is the machine able to know that it is JJ who is speaking? That borders on taking samples of my speeches and then at the end of the day making a comparison between the current speech and what is in memory to determine whether it is my speech or not. That requires a higher level of intelligence, and deep learning is required in that. Then there is natural language processing. Currently, we are working on a project at the Responsible Artificial Intelligence Lab where we are helping farmers to be able to make a determination with reference to a certain disease that has infected their crops. But in making communication regarding the remedy that they need to undertake as far as that particular disease is concerned, we are communicating the remedies to the farmers in their own languages. So if, for instance, the farmer is a Twi-speaking person, the remedy is played back to the farmer in Twi. To be able to do that, you need to do natural language processing. So you need to gather a lot of data sets that are within the domain of that particular language, so that you are able to communicate with the person in the language that he or she, understands. So typical examples are chatbots. These days, there are a lot of chatbots around. Anyone who has interacted with Siri or interacted with Alexa, these are chatbots that help us in our day-to-day activities. And we have even gone the step further where now there are bots that actually communicate with in our own language. So there are instances where you actually will not need a translator. You actually can have the AI translate seamlessly what is happening in your context. Then there is the realm of robotics, where we have AI in physical machines. Example, robot surgery systems, where you actually can undergo a surgery by actually programming a robot to be able to do that. So these are all key technologies and artificial intelligence. And the reality is that as I talk about these things, you realize that the world actually is changing as a result of these things. Mindful of the fact that there are the negatives, the potential that this wields is extraordinary. Next slide. Then there is the whole realm of generative AI. Remember that in the earlier ones that I have talked about, for instance, if you want to make a determination whether a fruit is mango or orange, you actually can use a very simple artificial intelligence to be able to make that determination. But when we talk of generative AI actually are able to generate, for instance, voice, generate music, generate text. They are able to generate a number of things based on information that is available. So, for instance, you can type that, give me the picture of a cat, and then actually give the environment within which the cat will find itself. A cat probably playing in the bedroom or something, and there and then you will have the AI generate that scenario for you. You can have a situation where music, you can actually have people's voices replicated and generated using AI. And so when it comes to generative AI, it is pushing it to the next level. And the reason this is important is that in supervised learning, we have a measured amount of data sets that we are using to train the model. So for instance, in your land governance stuff, you have a number of data sets regarding land information and all that, and then you use that to train the model, and then you request the model to be able to replicate what you have fed it with. In the context of generative AI, the entire internet is available for the AI to be trained. And so when it comes to intelligence, it is much more intelligent than AIs that we have ever seen, because the amount of information available is that massive. The only challenge that we have with generative AI is that if the amount of data that is available to train the model is not representative, then what it means is that if there are biases, it will continue to be replicating those biases. What do I mean by this? If, for instance, the data sets that are available are not of African origin, and an impression is created as though all the people in the world are from the global north, then primarily what it means is that if you ask it to generate something, if you ask it, for instance, to generate a human being and it's only familiar with whites, it will give you a white. It will not give you my brother seated before me. And that is the problem that we will have. And so in terms of generative AI, one of the key things that we are pushing for is ensuring that the database on which our models are being trained is representative, so that other people are not cut off. Let's go to the next slide. So data transformation through AI. We've said that in the area of healthcare, for instance, transformational. In our various consulting rooms, there have been instances where a lot of trial and error has been done. But where you have machines that have the complement of a lot of diagnoses that have been done in the past based on similar symptoms that have been fed into the machine, we are not saying that the AI is going to replace the doctor, but the AI should be able to assist the doctor to become better at what he does. There's a system that has been developed in radiology where, for instance, you have X-rays that have been fed to an AI, and then it makes a determination whether there is a problem or not. Once again, we are not saying that the AI will take over from the radiologist, but will be able to help the radiologist get a first impression of what exactly is happening. We can have, for instance, cases where some diseases are considered to be incurable. Incurable because the amount of information that is available is not much. But now that we have huge amounts of data, primarily what it means is that what was thought to be incurable, we are getting closer and closer to the cure. We have AI and its application to education. I will skip that because I'll come back to that and I will speak extensively about that. In the area of food and food production, the reality is that we are spending millions of dollars importing food on a regular basis in the African continent. If we can do AI-driven agriculture, we definitely can stabilize our currency. And so that is also something that we will look at. In the area of transportation, for instance, the public service. I'm sure that those of us in this room are very, very interested when it comes to judicious use of resources. And the reality is that there is a lot of wastage in the public sector because a lot of decisions are taken that are not driven by data. But if we are able to gather a lot of data, then primarily what it means is that in our various ministries and various offices, we can make decisions that are able to make judicious use of resources. In the area of people who live with disability also, AI can actually be a game changer. Next slide. What is the impact of AI on the economy? 3 things or 4 things have been talked about: job creation and transformation, economic growth, global competitiveness, and then inclusive growth. Next slide. With reference to job creation, the ethical thing that people talk about is that AI is coming to take away jobs from people. And I'm sure that some of us fear that even at times. The World Economic Forum has said, and this data actually is coming from the World Economic Forum, 97 million new jobs are going to be created, or actually are being created, because this actually was just about a year ago. 97 million new jobs are being created, and then $85 million. I'm not going to say they are going to be lost. They are actually going to be transformed from how they are into more productive ones. Primarily what it means is that jobs like routine jobs, so for instance, if it has to do with auditing, and it's the same thing that you are doing over and over again, if you are not upping your game regarding that, the reality is that you have an AI do the auditing and then you will be you will not be relevant. Those are the realities on the ground. So primarily what it means is that it is important that we add value to what we are doing. Let the AI work for you, so that at the end of the day, you actually are adding value to your output as far as your work is concerned. But work that relates to data science and the rest, there will be several jobs that are going to be created. So 97 million new jobs and then 85 million translating from what they are to new. Let me say something. Just last week, we were in a meeting at the Africa Development Bank annual meeting. And the statistics is this. Globally, when it comes to youthful population, you come to Africa. 80% of our population are youthful. In the global north, they don't want to give birth, and people have become old and they are dying. That offers an opportunity to train our people with reference to emerging fields, so that we can actually take over the 97 million jobs and the 85 million new jobs that are being translated. So primarily what it means is that we have a responsibility to train a lot of the youth with reference to these skills so that they can step into the new jobs. And primarily that is the reason why meetings like this are important, so that we can strategize with reference to the training that we give to our students. Next slide. Okay, so the impact of AI on the economy, I've said this over and over again. I mean, we are developing. If we are able to focus on AI, we actually can leapfrog and move out of the bracket that we find ourselves economically. Next slide. In terms of global competitiveness, the Indians have done it. The Chinese have also done it. The reality is that it's about becoming the place where people will want to move their jobs so that we actually can get the work done for them. So it's possible to have millions of people in Ghana doing works for various companies in the US and the rest of the world. Primarily what it means is that we need a skilled people to be able to do this. Let's go to the next slide. Inclusive growth. The reality is that there is a significant population who are differently able, and that is the reality. And it's important that we look at how do we leverage on emerging technology to ensure that these people are also relevant as far as emerging economies are concerned. The fact that people are blind, the fact that people can't hear, or people have different challenges in mobility does not mean that they should be left behind. We need to see how we can use artificial intelligence to even make life better for them. Next slide. So now we come to how then do we deploy AI as far as our research is concerned. Research basically borders on sifting through the data, isn't it? And then unearthing new knowledge. You know so? Okay. And that is the reason why if you want to do research, they say go to the library. Spend time on the internet. We have now the capacity to do this over a short period, so that something that you could have spent months researching through books, you actually can query your AI and then you will get the results. The reality is that what you get when you query the AI is fundamental, basic. It is important that you now subject it to domain experts to be sure that what is coming is accurate. So a lot has been said with reference to what you get from ChatGPT. The reality is that what is coming from the AI is not sacrosanct. It's not devoid of error. But it helps you be able to get basic knowledge as far as that domain is concerned. And so we are saying that AI can analyze large data sets and identify patterns and correlations that a human might miss. And so there are huge amounts of data. So for instance, if in your case study you had only Kumasi, now that you have the hindsight of AI, you actually can take the whole Ghana, go through the data, look at the trends, and then we can write very beautiful reports. And so there is a lot of data sets that we can analyze things that the ordinary person may miss. By deploying AI, we are able to become better at what we do. Previously also, for instance, in the health context, you definitely cannot do try and error with human life. And so if, for instance, you develop a drug and you actually wanted to test and find out whether it is accurate or not, we are able to shorten the time by looking at AI-powered simulations. And so, for instance, for those who are even in BT and the rest, if you have developed a structure and you wanted to know whether it will fail or not, you actually can simulate and know at what point the structure will fail. And so primarily what it means is that when it comes to various simulations, by deploying artificial intelligence in our research, we are able to shorten the time as far as getting results is concerned. When it comes to automating data analysis, the reality is that when it comes to data analysis, there are a number of things that are routine. And so if you needed a research assistant who needed to do the same thing over and over again, you actually can deploy an AI or develop a model that can do this for you. What that means is that it frees the hand of the human being to be able to do other relevant stuff. Am I communicating? Thank you. Let me talk about the challenges. But in this particular context, there is the saying that garbage in what? Garbage out. And because we are training our models using data, the data quality is very, very important. And the unfortunate thing is that several instances, either the data is non-existent or the quality of the data is bad. And so it's important that consciously we contribute to the generation of quality data so that we actually can use it to train our models. Then there is the issue of bias. And the reality is that if the data that you are getting is not familiar with the scenario that you are using it for, what it means is that, so for instance, if you are developing a scenario for the Kumasi region, but the data that is available to you is from Accra, what it means is that there is a bias because the data is not knowledgeable as far as the environment is concerned. Over-reliance on algorithms, and then there is also the issue of privacy and then security concerns. Because we are gathering data and we are using the data, there is the likelihood that some of the data may be sensitive. And at the end of the day, we may infringe on the human rights of individuals. And that is what the provost was talking about with reference to being careful. Okay. So we've talked about data analysis. We've talked about automating experiments. So robotics and AI in lab settings. For example, automated chemical synthesis. These are all opportunities that are available to us as far as the application of AI in research is concerned. In the area of genomics also, there is a lot that is being done with reference to applying AI to research. Then there is predictive modeling. So if you have a lot of information, you actually can predict what is likely to happen in future. And that also, we can use AI in that regard. Then there is natural language processing, where at the end of the day, we actually are able to look at a number of things in our unique context as far as various languages that are not common to the global north is concerned. Then we talked about the almighty ChatGPT, which is actually a large language model. The question has been asked, especially for somebody who is sitting at the quality assurance office. Currently, a lot of theses are generated and then they are sent to the graduate school, and the percentage of ChatGPT in there is even more than 50%. So I have been queried with reference to what do we do with this. If we are able to check and find out that a significant percentage is coming from ChatGPT, definitely we cannot accept something like that. What we have done is to commission a committee to quickly come up with a policy so that we can use it side by side with our Turnitin, so we can make a decision as to whether the work that the student is submitting is genuine or not. But at the end of the day, what we need to appreciate is that it is not that bad. We need to look at it within the context of what can I benefit from it, and then put guardrails in place regarding those who want to, still do the negative. And that is the reason policies like that are important. But if you ask me, a lot of the things that previously we spent a lot of hours doing, we are able to do within a very short time as a result of the help that we are getting from the machine. Next slide. In teaching also, we can have AI-powered tutors which can provide personalized learning experience for students. The reality is that in our various classes, there are students with different levels as far as absorption is concerned. It is not everyone who will be able to catch it at the first explanation. And so it becomes important that we are able to meet the students at their unique circumstance. And primarily what it means is that there are AI tools that are available, and on the basis of the student's ability strength with reference to that particular subject, a number of tutorials are administered to the student to help the student be able to understand the course. AI system can adapt to individual learning styles and pace, offering targeted instruction. So primarily what it means is that if we have a class of 100 or even 1,000 students, we are able to leverage on artificial intelligence to reach out to every student in his unique circumstance. And this is possible as far as AI is concerned. I'm trying to make a case to convince the provost that indeed it is a good thing. Provost, I hope I'm getting you convinced. Then we have AI automating grading and feedback. This is good for us. The reality is that currently, at the Quality Assurance Office, this week I was hot because the scantrons had broken down and we needed results to take to the various boards. The reality is that we actually can leverage on AI to help us with the grading. And actually it goes beyond multiple choice grading. Even, essay-based questions, we actually can rely on artificial intelligence to help us with the grading. About 2 years ago, I found myself in Georgia Tech, and they have campuses in China. And there the people register a lot, 10,000. So if you have 10,000 students who are taking your course, and you have given them an essay-based, exam, how do you mark all that? And they leverage on AI to be able to do this. And all that I'm saying is that we actually are able to integrate this to make it easier for us. At the end of the day, you look at what the AI is saying, definitely you have to get a second opinion before you actually pass it so that people are not, discriminated against. What are the challenges? I've mentioned this with reference to some of access and equity issues. If we are in this room and there are people who have different competencies and there are people who have different abilities, if you want to treat everybody equally, you will have a problem. And so it is important that we look at people in their unique circumstance. So where there are differently abled persons in the class, it is important that we don't say one size fits all as far as what we are administering is concerned. Then the second challenge has to do with technology integration issues. This one relies on a lot of computing power, okay, and then a lot of internet. If we haven't fixed that, deploying this is going to be difficult. And I say this even in the urban center. If we go to the rural communities, it's even worse. And so at the end of the day, it is important that we look at how do we fix the technology so that we are able to deploy AI effectively. The third challenge has to do with teacher training and readiness. I'm saying all these things, and then I'm sure that a lecturer is sitting down and wondering, even where to find the mouse, it's a challenge. So so primarily what it means is that a lot must go on as far as training the teachers are concerned, because they are a critical element as far as success is concerned. And we need to look at that. Maintaining human connection in education. We are not looking at a case where the machines will take over. I talked about a lot of tutors, AI-powered tutors. The human effect is also very important, because when you are in class with a student, you actually are able to pick certain things that the machine will miss. Their emotional disposition, what is happening at home and all that. I'm not sure the machine will be so caring enough to ask, I'm looking at your face and you don't look good. I don't think the machine is interested in that. But we actually can train it to get to that point, but it's not there yet. And so the maintaining human connection in education might be affected when we deploy a lot of these technologies. Next slide. Then we talk of intelligent tutoring systems. So AI tutors. We have virtual tutors that provide one-on-one interaction, feedback, and support to the students. and these are available. Example is the Carnegie Learning Material software that acts as a personal math coach, where it actually guides the student as far as mathematics is concerned. What is the benefit? Immediate feedback and assistance, which allows the student to work through problems at their own pace and receive help when needed. You know, there are several students. We can't spend all the time with these students. If you have 1,000 students in the class, if you even spend 5 minutes with every student, that's 5,000 hours. Okay, but if we are deploying technology, primarily what it means is that it becomes your TA. Okay, so everyone has 1 or 2 TAs. Then the machine also is a super TA that actually helps with reference to the work that we are doing. Next slide. I've talked about automated grading and then feedback. Grading is very important. These days we are doing a lot of international rankings and all that, and then some of the accreditation agencies, when they come, they want to find out whether we provide feedback to the students for every assignment that is given. And once you have a class, once again, 1,000 students, 500 students, every single work, they want you to invite the student, sit with the student, and discuss. That is actually quality teaching, isn't it? But it's difficult. And so with such tools, it becomes possible to do it. So the example is Gradescope, which uses AI to grade written and multiple choice exams. What is the benefit? Reduce workload on teachers. A lot of us are dying slowly. I mean, young as we have grown a lot of gray hair. And that is the reality. So at the end of the day, by deploying a number of tools, we actually are able to lessen the workload as far as the work that we are doing is concerned. Provide consistent and unbiased grading. If you are using this, it doesn't depend on how troublesome the student. There are instances you are looking at some troublesome ones and you want to make sure that they learn. But we are deploying AI, some of the biases with reference to student behavior is eliminated. And it gives the student instant feedback. You know, in our case, you have to carry the work and then you give them feedback maybe after 1 week. In the case of deploying technology, instantly they get their feedback so they are able to know whether they are doing well or not. Next slide. Then we move on from teaching to learning. As I did indicate, you go to teach, but learning is a different thing altogether. The story of has it gone in, and they say remember the tale. That is the learning part. So you probably may think that you are teaching now, but the learning may not be what? Going on. Yes, so AI in learning. So AI-powered learning platforms can offer engaging and interactive learning experience. What I have seen is that students love it when they play while they learn. So there's the standard way of I am standing there and then preaching to the students. We move away from that and then see how it is interactive based, project based, give tasks, and then we try to work through that. So when we are using AI-powered learning platforms, very interactive, and then the students are able to have fun while they learn. AI system can recommend learning materials based on student progress and interest. So primarily what it means is that based on the interest of the student, I mean in the lab that I lead, the responsible AI lab, there are some who are interested in natural language processing, NLP, but some are interested in computer vision. Some want to do machine learning and other things. And primarily what it means is that depending on the person's interest, certain materials and sites are exposed to the student so that they can grow mastery as far as that particular area is concerned. Then providing virtual assistance to answer student questions and offer support. Virtual assistance, so primarily what it means that whilst you are asleep, your virtual assistant is actually giving tutorials to the students. I think this is a good thing. My brothers, are you getting convinced? What are the challenges? Dependency on technology. The reality is that if we are not careful and we deploy this at the highest level, what primarily it means is that some who are not very interested in the job will rely only on this. And the core mandate where the technology is supposed to be your assistant, now the technology becomes the main thing and the lecturer is the assistant to the technology. Okay, so dependency on the overly dependent on technology becomes a problem. Loss of critical thinking skills. The reality is that over the years, Critical thinking has been compromised because several instances it is plug and play. So for instance, even in the BECE, they will go and learn particular past questions. And that is what they are looking for as far as the exam is concerned. And critical thinking is compromised. So if we become overly dependent on technology and it becomes plug and play, what it means is that the mind becomes dull. And so that is also something that can be gathered again, so that we see where do we draw the line, so that at the end of the day, technology kakra and then critical thinking also kakra. AI can provide, the other one is student privacy concerns, and then algorithm bias in the content delivery. And the reality is that as we continue relying on technology, there is a lot of data about the students that is made available. And primarily what it means is that if that data is not carefully used, at the end of the day, their privacy may be infringed upon. So that is some of the, next slide. Adaptive learning systems. So we have AI-driven platforms that adjust the learning content based on the individual student's performance and needs. So primarily what it means is that if, for instance, I'm teaching digital communication, and then I give the first exam, based on the scores, I can categorize the students. And then, oh, okay. I thought you could hear me. All right, sorry about that. Okay. Oh, it's on. Thank you. What I was saying is that we are able to categorize the students on the basis of their strength and then meet them at their point of need. So these become adaptive learning systems. So that whilst the sharks have moved on, we can spend a lot more time on those who have difficulty learning so that they can catch up with the rest of the class. A typical example is Dreambox Learning, which adapts math lessons in real time for elementary students. What are the benefits? Tailored educational experiences that cater for individual learning paces and then styles. Next slide. Then we have the virtual classroom and AI-driven content creation. So creating an enabling environment where beyond the brick and mortar, we now have the virtual class. So AI-enhanced learning platforms. These are systems that support virtual classrooms and create interactive and engaging content. In the new library mall that is being put up, there is a whole floor that is being dedicated to virtual learning. So that, for instance, if a student has never been to the hospital, he actually can go and then immerse himself in that virtual environment and then go through surgery using some of these tools. If a student hasn't been to the forest to pick reference points before, he actually can simulate that environment and then get the student to. So these are actually very good times as far as our learning is concerned. Okay, so example is Coursera and then edX, which uses AI to enhance their course offering and then personalize content. When you go to Coursera, actually, there are instances where they look at what you know and then what you want to become and then give you offerings with reference to various courses that you have to take to get the necessary certifications. Next slide. The future of AI in research. Colleagues, there are emerging technologies and then trends. Now we are talking about AI, but actually the world has even moved on and are looking at quantum. And so primarily what it means is that we need to move quickly. Okay, and then interdisciplinary research, AI collaborations across fields. The reality is that, for instance, in the lab, we now are looking at various problems that cut across. So for instance, if you are solving a problem that is AI as it relates to health, if you are an engineer, you actually cannot do all. You need people from the medical school. You probably may even need people from geomatics. If, for instance, you are doing AI in agriculture and you actually want to look at remote sensing and how it applies, you actually can look at a broad spectrum of people all working closely together. The other issue about the future of AI in research has to do with societal impact. And there is a lot that has been said regarding this. I lead a responsible AI lab. So it's not just an AI lab, but it's a responsible AI lab. And responsible in the sense that we always need to be mindful of the impact that technology is having on society. So if you are developing a solution for agriculture, and you are working with farmers, you want to find out the impact that such solutions are having as far as the farmers are concerned. Next slide. Okay, so what are the challenges? What are the challenges? The first one has to do with bias in training data, where your information that you are training the model with is biased. Primarily what it means is that the answers that you are getting, the model will be giving you erroneous results. The second one has to do with high costs. I have had cause to speak strongly about this because if we are not careful, we will create a class system where AI becomes the preserve of the rich. And gradually that is where the world is actually heading towards. The kind of things that are happening in the global north, the kind of things that are happening in US and China and the rest, you are looking at the Ghanaian context and you are realizing that the gap is very, very wide. And if we are not careful, we will move beyond the fourth industrial revolution and we still would have missed out. And so it becomes it becomes important for us to look at what avenues can we take with reference to bridging the gap. Three things are very important as far as development of AI is concerned. And this is coming from the UN advisory. The first one has to do with infrastructure. The second one has to do with data. The third one has to do with talent. And the data, we look at it side by side with compute. What that means is that we need to be intentional about building capacity as far as these three areas are concerned. So when it comes to infrastructure, for those of us who support governments as far as developing budgets and rolling it out is concerned, you need to put your money where your heart is. If we consider driving economies with technology, it becomes important that we make budgetary allocations as far as creating the necessary environment to roll out AI is concerned. So if it has to do with infrastructure, people in Accra, in Kumasi, and in the rural communities, they all need to have a certain fair level as far as infrastructure is concerned. The US people will not come and do it for us. We have to do it ourselves. So that is one. The second one has to do with data and compute. We need to be intentional about gathering data. And so if it has to do with creating data sets, what it means is let's have a framework, and then every work that we are doing, let's contribute to data. I was very happy listening to your overview with reference to the data sets that you are generating. That is good. What it means is that when we are training our models, those data sets are available, and so we are also represented as far as that is concerned. The other one has to do with compute. If you are training models, it requires a lot of computational power, and that requires chips to be able to drive the computers, isn't it? Globally, there is a lot of conversation and a lot of fighting that is going on. The chips are designed in the US, but then they are manufactured in Taiwan. And China also does its own manufacturing. And primarily what it means is that if at the end of the day we can position ourselves as a global market, as far as chips are concerned, we also become a player. Recently I was in Kenya. They've started manufacturing chips as far as that is concerned. But we also can be able to move along that line. And then we have talent. I talked about the 80% of the people who are youthful. And it becomes important that we intentionally see how we can build capacity. So let people not graduate without having knowledge in AI. What am I saying? AI is the new chip on the block. We don't have to be ignorant about it. And so in our developing new courses, fundamental knowledge, as far as emerging technologies are concerned, we need to find a way of rolling it in as far as our first years are concerned. So that at the end of the day, we will see how can we apply technology and become better at what we do. That is thinking about the future. So that as we graduate students, we are graduating students who are on top as far as technology is concerned. There is the challenge of the black box problem as far as AI is concerned. So we are training models, and then the models are being deployed. As to what is in the model, nobody knows. And so it makes it difficult for people to trust it. And that is a major challenge. And as I talk about the ethical issues, I will actually delve into that. Next slide. So, here. So what are the ethical issues? The first one has to do with privacy and data protection. And the reality is that I need data to train my models. But the data that I am gathering, there are instances where the data relates to people's personal information. So for instance, if I want data to train a health model that I've developed, I may get data that relates to somebody's mother or wife or daughter. It is important that I am responsible in how I manage that data. Because beyond training the health model, if that data goes out, people will be pointing at oh, so this person has cancer. And then it becomes a worsening of the person's situation. So it is important that data protection laws are respected as far as the use of data to train our models are concerned. Recently, I had to make a presentation with reference to data privacy and all that. And the reality is that a lot of countries in Africa have data privacy laws, but only a few have commissions to enforce those laws. And so the law is there, but when it comes to enforcement, there is a problem. And even the people who interpret the laws and implement it may actually be ignorant of the technology dimensions as far as the law is concerned. The second one has to do with bias and fairness in the algorithm. And as I've already indicated, if the data is not representative, you will have a problem. There was a case where a model was developed to help judges make a determination whether someone is guilty or not. At the end of the day, a lot of blacks went to prison. Yes, because the data points to the fact that a lot of the criminals in the past have been blacks. And so if you are black, the likelihood that you go to jail is very, very high. Accountability and then transparency. Transparency enhances trust. So for instance, there is a challenge in land governance with reference to land disputes and all that. So you have developed an AI to help solve that, isn't it? So if people do not know the thought process as far as that AI model that you have developed is concerned, it will be difficult for them to trust it. So the AI can say that, oh, the land belongs to A or B, but people will not trust it because they do not know the thought process. So transparency becomes very, very important. And then accountability. Accountability in the sense that who do we hold responsible? At the end of the day, there is there's a lot of discussion with reference to autonomous vehicles. So if an autonomous vehicle knocks somebody down, who do we hold responsible? Is it the vehicle or the one who manufactured it? And so at the end of the day, accountability issue becomes an issue. Job displacement and then socioeconomic impacts. A lot of conversation is being had with reference to people losing their jobs as a result of AI. What we have always said is that let's reskill and upskill people so that they become relevant even in an AI generation. Next slide. Then I talk about, still on ethical issues, mindful of the fact that there are a certain category of persons who are differently abled. We don't have to leave anyone behind. No one should be left behind. So what it means is that from the envisioning stage to the data stage, to the modeling stage, to the deployment stage, we must know that there are a certain group of people who are not just like everybody. So if you have developed a system to help students learn, know that in that same classroom are people who are visually impaired. And we must be intentional with reference to developing those models to ensure that it takes everyone into consideration. So the differently abled must not be left behind, and AI must not create a class system in our education so that it is the preserve of only the rich. So that if your parents have money and can help you acquire the tools, then, recently, I mean, when it comes to ChatGPT, when people were trying it, it was free. Now they have put a price tag on it. So then they have separated the haves from the have-nots. Okay, that is not ethical. Okay, so at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be driven by profit. We must consider it as a public good so that people can all benefit from it. We must leverage on AI to make life easier for differently abled persons. Next slide. Then I scratch the surface with reference to what you can do as far as land governance is concerned. We talk of land use planning. A lot of, what I read borders on, you have an area and then you want to know what will happen if there is a road in that area. You actually can simulate it using AI so that at the end of the day, if it will make life better for the people, you will know. If it wouldn't also, you will know. So you actually can be able to make a determination with reference to land use and then planning. Classification of land also you can use AI to be able to classify the land and make a determination what a parcel of land should be used for based on the land cover. Land evaluation also, a lot of things go into that. If you deploy an AI, it makes it easier for you to be able to do that. Then land registration, a lot of wahala about it. If you are able to allow the AI to get in there, you're able to sanitize the system and get it done in a matter of a few hours, actually. Using NLP, digitizing of land records and all that makes life very easy for all of us. But then there's the illegal use of land use detection. I don't want to go into politics, but you actually can deploy AI when it comes with improper use of land. So that is. Then there is the natural resource management also. We can apply AI as far as this is concerned. I've run through this because I know that you will have time to actually be able to interrogate this well. Let me conclude now. Colleagues, the reality is that AI is impacting every field of education. No two ways about that. And the reality is that I probably might have convinced the provost or not. But the truth is, the train has moved. The train has moved, and it's important that we flow with the tide and make the most of it. Whether we say the students should use ChatGPT or not, they are using it anyway. And so it's important that we see how we can maximize the use. We need to strategically position ourselves to harness the positives whilst guarding against the negatives, and that is the reality. Things can actually go wrong, but once we put measures in place, we can harness the positive and guard against the negative. We need to review our curriculum to build capacity in AI in our professional training. And as I've already indicated, it is important that any student who enrolls and graduates from our institutions is abreast with emerging trends. AI, blockchain, IoT, all the things that you can think about. Existing practitioners must be retrained to stay relevant in AI-driven economy. So the many people that have already graduated, we can run a lot of short courses, bring them back and then orient them so that they can use it as a tool to become better at what they do. It must be applied responsibly with people and society in mind. That is important because in responsible AI, we say that put the human being at the center so that at the end of the day, we want to find out the impact that technology is having on society. If we are able to do this, I am certain that the world will become a better place. I want to say a very big thank you for the opportunity to have been able to share with you. Thank you.
Prof, we are so much filled, and I was just enjoying all that you were saying, but the most critical part for me was the fact that we should leave no one behind. It's been so good listening to you. I believe we have a lot of questions and comments. So can we have the other mic? So we'll be moving in that direction pretty soon. I would want to say that we have our friends also online with us, and the technical team would help so that in case there's anybody who has a comment or a question from Amsterdam, from various countries in Africa, they've been with us this morning and they'll be with us throughout the session. Little information for us. The questionnaires that were shared with us, some of us have not been able to fill them. Would please that we try and then do that. Again, those who may want to have their rooms cleaned, your keys are supposed to be left at the reception so that they can do that for you. So we move quickly to the Q&A session. You just raise your hand. I'll give one mic to Prof so that he doesn't have to be coming up again and again. Technical, the other mic. Once.
Okay, a question free for geomatic engineering.
at your conclusion, you said human beings are supposed to be at the center. But all these things are driven by businessmen. And businessmen, they need to pay their workers. They need to have their systems running. We all know that human beings at times are dispensable. So that's the first question. Are you really sure they care about us? And two, even though some people are disabled, we are trying to carry everybody along. Is everybody willing to be a player? That's my second question.
I guess we may take about 3 at a time, and then Prof would respond, then we'll move to the next set.
I'll be making comments on it. So thank you very much. The AI has been very helpful to us as students in our research and learning experience. I've also come across the Meta AI. I don't know, some of us who have the updated WhatsApp version. You can ask any question on AI, and then it will give you details of even individuals or other issues, and AI can really talk. It gives a lot of detailed information. But some of the concerns that I've also come across when you look at the data stage, as we were seeing, that who makes the data available, and the privacy and data consent arrangement is also a concern, because there are lots of people saying, even for ChatGPT, that there's a commercialization of data that they have created and there's no consent. How is ChatGPT using that data? And then even when it comes to the the deep learning or something where there's a speech recognition and all, a lot of voice actors have also come up that they are using their voices without their consent, and whether OpenAI or whatever leading AI is doing that. And these are issues that are being raised. What is it? How protected are we? And this is what I want to ask.
Right. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. I mean, these questions have been asked over and over again. So the issue about driven by profit, and then those who are differently able, are we ready to carry everybody along? What we need to appreciate is that even though these actors, and let me say big tech, even though they are driven by profit, they operate within a certain regime. So for instance, if the company is registered in the US, the state has a responsibility to protect its citizens. And so where private sector is driven by profit, at the end of the day, the state must be the people's advocate in ensuring that the interests of the people are guarded against. And that is the reason why we had a case where Congress had to the big tech before them with reference to the impact that technology will have on the people. And so we can't go beyond the state in this particular regard. And that is the reason why laws have to be enacted. And then the state has a responsibility to ensure that these players respect the laws. So I will go to government and ensure that the right things are done. Regarding people who are differently able, the reality is that they are with us and they are part of us. And once again, it is important that consciously we put incentives in place to encourage the actors to be able to support such people. What do I mean by this? So for instance, when it comes to developing assistive technologies for people who are differently able, they are not in the capacity actually to pay for it because economically they are not strong. But then we can put tax breaks for those who go into such, so that at the end of the day, once again, the state comes in to support such people. But then the other part has to do with advocacy, and then ensuring that we can appeal to the conscience of the people so that the right things are done. But in all this, the state must be a key player. Then with reference to data and how people's data are respected and all that, as I did indicate, there are data protection laws. And the reality is that where people are being irresponsible with the use of data, and we can make a case, millions of dollars actually can be extracted from them as a result of that work. I think it was Facebook, isn't it, who were not responsible with reference to people's data. They were taken to court and they lost millions of dollars. So primarily what it means is that there are laws. And where we realize that people's privacy has not been respected in the use of data, we can always sue. But at the end of the day also, we must rely on agencies that have been created to protect the rights of persons. The Data Protection Commission in Ghana has that responsibility to ensure that people's data is used responsibly. Now, when it comes to how much data do I give out, in our current dispensation, it becomes important that we are careful when we are interacting with some of these tools. Meta AI has made that available, not just because they want to assist, but it's also an avenue to gather data. And so all the interaction that we are having is an avenue for them to enrich their data stock. So we need to look at that. And then, once again, governments need to come in. As long as you are operating within my space, you have to be sure that you are not shortchanging my people. And what we can do is that we don't have, money to buy compute and the rest, but we can generate data, and then that becomes our bargaining chip. So that when it comes to interacting with them, come and establish here, and then you can have access to my data. Use it responsibly. We don't pay for it because you are using our data. That is better than coming to collect our data, developing your models, and then when we want to use it, we have to pay for it as well. That one is not fair. I hope that answers the question. All right.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof, for a very insightful presentation. And really, I would say you have exposed a lot of things that I wish we could engage you for longer. But I'll come to the question that I want to ask related to the ethical aspect, because I saw that from your list. Maybe we missed the aspect of professional ethics. And it's something that has, I'm a member of the American Society of Civil Engineers. And in their recent magazine that was circulated, this issue came up. The scenario is, initially somebody wanted to publish a paper like you said. And normally when you use AI, you won't disclose that you use AI. So this is a person, when he submitted, he made a mistake, and the reviewer noticed that he used AI in certain, that's generative AI. So they went back to the publisher, and he now admitted that he used AI just to support the work that he did. He was asked to produce his original work, he couldn't, and the paper was rejected. So I'm coming to the issue of who takes that responsibility, because if you ask AI to do something for you, do you disclose the percentage that AI did? You know, and then in the case of the American Society of Civil Engineers, among their professional ethics, there's an aspect where if you use AI, it can be far-reaching, because as a professional, there's a responsibility on you to the client to show that you did this work. And you showed the example of the medical doctor. So for instance, the medical doctor, if you use AI to come to a conclusion, is he obligated to disclose to the patient? I mean, these are things that, you know, that's why I said you could engage. So I want to, by ending, you also mentioned the issue of critical thinking. And even though I'm not an economist, I've read some books on classical economics where Adam Smith is noted to be somebody who is a synthesizer than an original thinker. So with all this at play, I've seen that we have to be very careful about the way AI is being presented, because I'll end on this. For instance, we have used many softwares to support us in our research. But what we do is that even if you use the software, the interpretation of the findings is on you, the researcher, and not the AI. But it looks like the picture we are painting is a reverse. So maybe you can educate us on that. Thank you.
Welcome, my provost, and we should expect something big.
Why am I always in this situation? Honestly, I'm picking up from where he landed, and I was looking at it from this perspective that I have 3 doctoral students. I've exposed them to same sets of data. They have all used AI. Is it now the intention of AI to, as it were, kind of standardize the IQ of all these students for me, when naturally they have different levels of intelligence that could have been fed into how they interpreted the data as individuals? Then the second issue that I really have dear to my heart is this, and you made it even worse in terms of my fright. The global north has moved on, and they are looking at quantum computing in AI. I wish Professor Stephen Hawking were alive today for me to know his view. But bottom line is this: is Africa really ready for AI? You've given us clues as to what we could do to treat the class of people you consider differently able. Kidney patients are dying at, G and what do I call it, Kolibu, and that is heart bleeding. Data is money. We don't even have the relevant sets of data. I was looking at all your pictorials. There wasn't any of the, pictures that was black. There wasn't any. You see, so you will see that we are far away from where we should be as far as AI is concerned, and the other part of the world has even moved on. Are we ever going to close this digital divide? Food for thought.
All right, so we have 2 online. We'll just take those 2, and then Prof would respond.
So the first is coming from Stella Maris Oguho. How do we ensure standardization with AI? If through AI for learning, we can get customized content based on the child's ability, what about the final examination? That is same. What about the time frame, since all students have the same duration to learn the same concepts? Okay, and the second one is from Pamela. What are the ethical implementations of AI in education? When it comes to reports and paper writing, we have software to detect plagiarism and the use of AI, but to what extent is the use of generative AI ethical or unethical? Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay. Yeah, I think if you look at all the questions, it still borders on the use of technology and how responsible do we have to be in that. Starting from the last person or the last questioner, AI will actually generate the first response for you. But at the end of the day, the responsibility is on you to interpret it in your own original understanding and then present it. That presents a bigger responsibility on the assessor to be able to sift through what has been tabled to make a determination as to whether it's original or not. There are now tools that are available with reference to the analysis that has been presented for you to be able to tell whether it is original or is copy. And so my purpose and then the reality is that tools or AI is only an enabler. It's supposed to help us, but it doesn't have to be the final submission. But we have now a responsibility to ensure that we are able to make a determination whether the student is presenting raw what he got from AI or not. The other issue which borders on the exams and all that, you see, the reality is that AI is supposed to help us gain understanding. But in examining the students, it is important that we put it in such a way that we are able to examine their critical thinking and how they are able to use the tools to actually answer the questions. So once again, it comes back to, indeed the world has moved on, but it is important that we do not interact with our students as though life is, as it used to be. What do I mean by this? For instance, in the line of questioning that we have been giving to students, if it is write this, write that, ChatGPT can easily help them do that. So primarily what it means is that we now have to move beyond that and see how they can apply the tools that are available to them to be able to develop something that is tangible. So that is one dimension of looking at it. So we need to move beyond the knowledge to doing something with what you know. So that must be the examination. My venerable provost, the reality is that the world is actually now beginning to look at Industry 5.0, quantum computing and the rest. But do we then say that because the global north is up there, we will actually say we won't do anything at all? We definitely can do something. If people have issues that relate to their kidney and all that, that is what I'm saying. AI offers an opportunity for us to actually be able to heal people who previously would have died. If in the rural communities no doctor wanted to go there, and for that reason simple sicknesses were killing people, now we have the opportunity of using AI to help with reference to coming to an understanding what is happening and then finding a solution. In the lab currently we are working on something we call care for rare, and that basically borders on identifying diseases that which previously were thought to be rare diseases among children. So people give birth, and then before they realize the child is dead, you ask the doctor what happened. He doesn't know because he's not exposed to it. Gathering a lot of data sets and then mining that data, now based on the symptoms that the doctor is seeing, he's able to make a determination. Oh, this is what is happening, and then lives will be saved. So yes, we are up there, but we must start from somewhere. We definitely must start from somewhere. If the world goes to 5.0, at least we definitely need to do something. And so I wouldn't want to us to throw our hands in despair and say that we won't do anything about it. I'm sure that we exhibit the necessary brain power to be able to catch up. And the reason I say this is that most of the people who are leading these revolutions, a significant percentage of them are people who have been trained here in Africa, but have the opportunity of working in the global north. And so primarily what it means is that exposed to the same amount of technology, we actually can leapfrog. And so let's begin to do something. And I say this to people who have the opportunity of advising various governments, that where we are, we don't need to miss out. And what it means is that anything that we need to put in place to build the necessary capacity to be able to benefit fully from AI. We are in the university, our students don't have to be ignorant, but we don't have to leave it with the university. The senior high schools and the basic are very, very important. There are some countries here in Africa where when it comes to coding, they have made it compulsory, even at the basic level. And we need to begin to go along that line. My provost.
my neighbor at large, I think that you are a very strong defender of AI, no doubt about that, yes. Passionate, and I admire that a lot. My question was intended for us to look at from which side of the equation do we tackle this issue. I have no question about our level of brain power, yes, in being part of the global north. But then, those leading us here are not the same as those leading them over there. You see, how do we then gather the necessary resolve to be able to let our leadership understand that this is a priority area, we've got to put the resources there to generate what it is that will be beneficial to the nation. Research is
from is the source from where data is acquired.
Exactly.
What is the percentage of our GDP that we apply to research? Less than 1%. Less than 1%.
Yes.
We must be jokers. You see, so it's a critical problem.
Yeah. No, my provost, I agree perfectly with you. But beyond government decisions, as people operating in academia, it becomes important that we do what is within our power. And so the things that are enablers, as far as AI is concerned, as I did indicate, infrastructure, data and computing power, and then talent. Government must create the enabling environment, but within our context, making sure that even in the university, the necessary infrastructure has been put in place for us to be able to even try our models is important. So if, for instance, we are going for budget defense, we want to find out how much of that budget is going into making sure that we are putting the necessary infrastructure in place. How much is going into computing power, how much is going into building capacity, so that in our own small corner we can brighten that. Then when it comes to advising government also, the whole world knows that when it comes to driving economies, this is where we actually need to look at. And creating the example here at KNUST, we can tell government that, yes, we need to follow suit.
So, Prof, I think you ended exactly on the note I expected you to. Because you see, until recently, where you install this solar system, where we even have some energy in stored batteries to teach. When we are teaching and the power goes out, everything ends. Examination, it goes off everything, nothing happens. So I think for me, we should set the pace, lead the way. If government begins to see that in our own small way as investors, without enough resources, we're able to actually do things, then at least then it gets incentivized to put in systems to help. Because without the infrastructure, without access to internet, and for me, the most critical element is the affordability issue. How much does 1 gig of data cost? And how many people can afford it, given how things are going now? So I think these are the critical things, because if we're not to leave anyone behind, then fairness and equity become critical in deciding on these issues. And I think for me, that's very critical. So let us set the pace, make it available to our students here, tell the government is doable. In that case, if you are directing them to do it, it becomes easy. My last one has to do with Dr. Haji's question regarding if an engineer or a doctor uses AI, professional ethical issues. That brings me back to a story. Now, somebody took his machine to somebody's repair. Many people tried, they couldn't repair it. He goes to one person, he just hits an area with a hammer twice, and the machine starts working. He says, how much are you going to charge? He says, I'm going to charge you $100. He says, you just hit it twice? He says, yes. Hitting is just $2, but knowing where to hit is $98. So I think it's coming back to the issue. So the AI is there. If you hadn't trained as a medical doctor, how could you know this is the tools to use to get the results you need? So I think we should be careful about these issues, or else we'll stifle innovation and creativity.
We've been talking of the need for infrastructure. Anyone will be willing to provide the infrastructure if they know the value of the infrastructure. But here we are in an institution, let's take KNUST, we don't even believe in research. I mean, we place more value from quality assurance. We place more value on teaching than creating the new knowledge that we need to teach. So if we don't place value on the research, what do we have to teach? And why should we invest in infrastructure when we don't believe in what generates the knowledge?
Okay, thank you so much. My first issue has to do with curriculum. AI has come and we are told that we are entering into a new space. One thing I have found is that when these things begin to pop up, Prof, you are at COP. it's as if we are still waiting on something to incorporate this in our curriculum. So by the time we will incorporate them, we are still behind. What is Kwapu doing? That maybe at a point all of us should re-accredit our courses, incorporating AI into it. Because if we say we have to wait for the accredited courses to expire, then we incorporate it, I believe we might be behind. Then I happen to chance on something called prompt engineering. And I think it's something that maybe we have to also start teaching our students, so that if they are using it, they are able to prompt very well, so that they don't bring us the raw form of information, but they are able to get it properly. Then the final one has to do with the ethical part. Now, there is also an antidote to the generative language, where people have also developed models that are now humanizing the generative languages. So I have done a lot of experiments. You humanize, you take it through all the various AI detection softwares, and it doesn't detect anything. It tells you that they are all human written. So it's like we are here, but we are also kicking ourselves in the other side. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mommy, I come back to the issue about whether the university believes in research. My provost is here. And one of the pillars, as far as the strategic plan is concerned, is impactful research. So we actually believe in it. Maybe the resources that we don't have is what gives an impression as though we are not interested in research. But from where I sit, there is a lot of interest, and we will really love that we churn out impactful research, because that is a guide as far as the work that we are doing is concerned. Let me come back to the issue about curriculum. The reality is that you don't necessarily have to wait until it is time for re-accreditation before you introduce the students to new principles. If you look at the apprentice system as far as training is concerned, you are working together with your people, and as new knowledge comes, you pass it on. Every semester, or even every day that we go to class, if we have been exposed to something new that makes us better at what we do, talk to them about it. The curriculum is supposed to be a guide, but in the classroom, whatever is available to make our students better, let's pass it on. As to the issue relating to people finding ways of hiding and all that, the evil people will always be with us. But this is what I will say. At the end of the day, let's touch hearts, so that people are more interested in acquiring knowledge and becoming better at what they do, rather than, because for someone who doesn't know but wants to use cut corners to demonstrate that he knows, it is when he gets to the job market that the fundamentals will expose him. Exactly. So as for that one, there will always be people like that amongst us. But let's touch us, and let's have people who are committed to genuinely learning new things. Regarding prompt engineering, I agree perfectly with you that, for instance, how you even prompt the system to give you results, there is a skill that you need to learn. And I'm sure that you don't need to wait for revision of curriculum before these things are passed on to our students. I think that deals with it. Thank you. Yes, then the issue about whether you have to declare. The reality is that if we look at how we actually interact with our clients, the client has a responsibility. You have a responsibility to the client to let him know how you are taking care of him or her. So if you are gaining knowledge, it's not that it is the computer that is telling you what to do. It is only providing you with information. But ultimately, the final action rests with the doctor. But it is important that you let the person know that this is what is available to us. Then the person has a decision, takes a decision whether he wants to continue to let you be his doctor or not. So ethically, it's right that the person must know how you actually, when you even go to the hospital, they are supposed to give you a rundown of what is happening to you. It's just that at times they are so busy that they quickly write something for you to go. But they should sit you down, have a conversation with you, let you know what is happening before they tell you, this is how I think we can treat the situation. So if he's getting something from the computer, he definitely should tell you. It's ethical. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. No, I've seen papers where ChatGPT is actually cited as an author. Yeah.
My question, Prof. My question, one relates to the, of course, impact on innovation and creativity, which we've been talking about it. Yes, we want AI to help us and to reduce human burden that we do things. But if you look at the design, you also try to imagine what will be the real benefit apart from being the users. I think we are only looking at being the users of these tools to facilitate our work. Computers were invented and we are using it for our work, but we still cannot produce the computers. You see now, they are now placing price on the access to these facilities. And so we will always be cut out. So should the emphasis be whether we can also produce our own systems of AI and we don't have to be using somebody's AI? Because the more we preach to use it, the more market we are giving to them. How do we make use of that? For example, they are using our data. How do we benefit from that? We publish papers, and AI is able to use it for people to use it for their works. How do we get benefit from that? And so, how do we design policies that will rather be training our students and ourselves to create the system ourselves, instead of just being the users of it? Because we have been using cars, we don't produce cars. And it's the same system we are going into the AI domain. Some people out there, they are producing the technology for us, and we are using it. So, in the end, what will be the real benefit other than just helping us to do the work? And is that really what we want to have?
I was trying to get help from my friend here, but I think I still need to ask the question. My question is on research. Most of our research is we do paraphrasing. And there are so many paraphrasing tools or software. And most of them are AI generated. Talk of Quiboot, talk of even Grammarly, which the university has even subscribed to. Now, so if I have my content, I feed it with these platforms. And they generate, they paraphrase for me. And I copy everything, copy and paste the whole thing. Is it also AI generated? Assuming it is run and the system identify them as or flag them as AI stuff. So how do you how do you call it?
Yeah.
Then also this will be something like contribution to what you said that we have to be responsible for the AI generated stuffs. I was reviewing a paper, and then I loaded the paper into the AI system. And then when you review, you have some guideline questions that you use. So I fed the system with those guidelines. It gave me responses. Then some of the responses the AI gave, I realized that I read through the manuscript so that the authors indicated that they were doing a global analysis, and out of the data points that they use, out of let's say 500, they use 300. The AI was able to detect that. So in the response that it gave, it asked that authors should explain why out of 500 they use, let's say, 300. So sometimes you have to also go through it and see what it has generated compared to what the real aspect of it before you can also. So it can also assist in research depending on what you feed it and the feedback and your assessment of the feedback. Thank you.
Yes, so to what Doc was saying, as students, we want to know what data does this AI detect? Like he's saying, if it is paraphrasing, does the AI detect that? Or if you are just doing a generative one, is it what the AI also detects? And then to the Elsevier thing, I've also looked at it and I was also scared. What is the implication? Because if I'm going to disclose that a portion of this or my literature review is AI generated, what's the implication out there? Because you don't know the understanding of how people perceive your paper. So we want to understand if we are disclosing as Elsevier or some of the journals as saying, what should be our fears? Thank you.
Okay. You see, when it comes to originality or the similarity index, I think we are looking at the substance of what you are presenting and how original is it. It's not so much an issue of the English. So what you are presenting, the idea that you are submitting, to what extent is it original from you and that you are not copying? So it is important that we make that difference. That when we say that we are looking at the similarity index, we want to look at the substance of what has been submitted in the context of not having to go and pick someone's original work to submit. So it means that for those of us who are assessing, we must go the step further and actually interrogate and find out what exactly is before us, to what extent is it the student's original idea. So there's a lot more work that needs to be done regarding that. Whether it is actually original work that is coming from the student or a copied idea that the person, because at the end of the day, what makes it plagiarized is submitting someone's idea in your name for a degree. It's not so much an issue of the English. And so that has to be interrogated for us to be certain that indeed the original idea is coming from you. The other issue that borders on indigenous knowledge, you talked about, the reality is that AI or emerging technology is worth millions. But it's worth millions to the extent that we are owners of that technology. And that is the reason why I want to agree with you that we need to develop indigenous models that bear our name. There are a number of people who are doing very well in the AI space with reference to developing tools that are of the African origin. So that, if for instance, issues that relate to even the current discussion we are having, identifying what is plagiarized or not, it doesn't always have to be Turnitin. We can develop our own indigenous tools, and then we can patent it, and when others use it, we also get money. And so that is where we are moving towards. Currently, we are working on developing a tool to help smallholder farmers. If you go and pick a tool that has been developed elsewhere, it wouldn't work well within their context. And so it becomes important that we develop indigenous solutions that helps our unique context. And at the end of the day, we also can get a lot of money. Regarding data and then how people use it, data now can be compared to oil. He who holds the data holds the power. And that is the reason why I said initially that we may not have money to build supercomputers, but we can generate data that supercomputers can use. And without our data, your models will not be intelligent. And so that becomes a bargaining chip that we actually can take to the table so that we can get something done. And so regarding data also, consciously, we can create a repository, and then that becomes an avenue to bring us to the table also. I think that settles it, isn't it? Thank you.
I guess we have been able to exhaust the questions and comments. What is left is our ability to chew on these things and then try to ensure that there is action. Prof, we are very, very grateful for your time with us. We know that there is something else waiting for you and you would have to rush out of this place. On that note, I want to plead with us that we would also have a little change on the program. There's supposed to be a group photograph before lunch, but we would want to have it now. Molly, where can we have it? Downstairs? Okay. So he'll guide us, we'll move down, and then we'll have it. After that, we'll have our snacks, and then we'll come back for the next session. Thank you very much. Yes. Yes. So there is a sheet that is going around. You are supposed to indicate what you would prefer for lunch. They have two options. That is plain rice with gravy, chicken or fish, and then fufu with light soup, goat, and fish. So you kindly write your name where you think you belong, and then we'll send it to them. It should be done as early as possible so that they can prepare for us. Yeah. Okay. All right. So for those online, we hope you have enjoyed the session. Thanks for your contributions. We would be having a short break, and then we hope to be together again at 11:15 Ghana time, GMT. Thank you very much. So we can move downstairs for the picture, but ensure that you pick the form and then write your name where you would prefer your name to be. Thank you very much. Prof, thank you very much once again.
Since Prof is still here, since Prof is still here, and you see, our student, the PhD student was asking a very valid question, because I'm sure they are having doubts. If you look at the whole issue, we are reading a few things from online, and can you just where authors use AI and AI-assisted technologies in the writing process, these technologies should only be used to improve readability and language of the work, and not to replace key authoring tasks such as producing scientific pedagogy or medical insights, drawing scientific conclusions, or providing. So you see that the writer has to be very careful. Well, what I have suggested recently is the issue of triangulation. What it means is that the student or whoever has to produce the work first, and perhaps ask AI for its view and try to compare. But just to allow AI to produce and then you begin to rely on it can be very problematic if you look at what we are reading online. So I think for the purpose of the students, maybe it was good to share this. Okay.